3 months had passed since the horizon died in the cold darkness of space. On Earth, nothing was the same anymore. President Han stood at the window of her office, looking out at the city below. Seoul had always been a busy place, full of noise and movement and life. But today, like every day since the attack, the city was quiet. Flags flew at half-mast. People walked slowly, their faces heavy with grief. Everyone knew someone who had died on the horizon. A friend, a family member, a neighbor. The ship had carried the best of humanity, and now they were gone. Closed her eyes and thought about the recording. She had watched it 100 times, the ships moving in formation, the weapons fire, the explosion, and the Council's response calling it an accident and offering nothing but empty words. Her hands tightened into fists. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Her assistant entered and bowed slightly. "Madam President, Admiral Lee and Dr. Bay have arrived." Nodded, "Send them in." Admiral Lee walked into the room first. She was a tall woman with short black hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She had served in Earth's space fleet for 30 years, and she had never lost a battle. Behind her came Dr. Bay, a thin man with glasses and messy hair. He was the lead scientist at Earth's most secret research facility. They sat down across from the president. No one smiled. There was nothing to smile about. "What do you have for me?" asked. Admiral Lee spoke first. "The nations of Earth have agreed to form the United Earth Defense Council. Old rivalries are forgotten. The Americans, Chinese, Russians, Europeans, Africans, everyone. For the first time in human history, we are truly united." Felt a small spark of hope. That is good news. "There is more," Dr. Bay said, leaning forward. "Before the horizon was destroyed, our agents managed to copy large amounts of data from the Council's systems. Technology, ship designs, weapon specifications. We have been studying this data for years, but we never had a reason to use it." "And now?" asked. Dr. Bay smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was cold and sharp. "Now we have Project Blackout. We have taken their technology and made it better, much better. Humans have always been good at one thing, Madam President: war. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Now we will show the galaxy what that means." He placed a small device on the table and pressed a button. A holographic image appeared, showing a sleek warship unlike anything Earth had ever built. "This is the Eclipse-class destroyer," he said. "It is faster than any Council ship. Its weapons can bypass their shields, and we can build hundreds of them." Admiral Lee added, "We have already begun construction in secret. Hidden facilities on the dark side of the moon, inside asteroids, in places the Council will never look. In 18 months, we will have a fleet of 3,000 ships." President stared at the hologram. She had never wanted war. She had always believed in peace and diplomacy, but diplomacy had failed. Peace had been answered with murder. "The Council thinks we are weak," she said quietly. "They think we are children." "Yes," Admiral Lee replied, "they do." Looked at both of them, her eyes hard. "Then we will teach them otherwise, but I want to be clear about one thing. We are not monsters. We do not kill civilians. We do not destroy worlds. We are better than that." Admiral Lee nodded. "Agreed. We will target their military, their leaders, those who ordered the attack and those who covered it up. No one else." "What about Lieutenant Park?" asked. "Is she still alive?" "Our intelligence suggests yes," Lee answered. "She is being held in a prison facility. We will get her back, I promise you that." The meeting continued for several hours. Plans were made. Resources were assigned. The entire industrial power of Earth was redirected toward a single goal. When they finally finished, it was late at night. President walked Admiral Lee to the door. "Are you sure we can do this?" she asked. "They have been fighting wars in space for thousands of years. We have only been in space for a few centuries." Admiral Lee turned to face her. "Madam President, they think they understand war. They are wrong. They fight for power and territory. They fight because they enjoy dominating others. But humans, when humans fight, we fight for something more. We fight for our families, for our friends, for the 2,400 people who died because the galaxy thought we did not matter. She paused and looked out the window at the night sky. Every human on this planet is angry, she continued. Not hot anger that burns out quickly, cold anger, the kind that makes you patient, the kind that lets you plan and wait and strike at exactly the right moment. Thee and the Council have awakened something they cannot understand, and by the time they realize their mistake, it will be far too late. Nodded slowly. Make them pay, Admiral, make them all pay. I intend to. In the months that followed, Earth transformed. Factories that once made cars and electronics now made weapons and ship parts. Scientists who once worked on medicine and technology now worked on military projects. Young men and women joined the new United Fleet by the millions. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted revenge. But they kept it all secret. The Galactic Council had spies and sensors throughout the galaxy, but they were not looking at Earth. Why would they? Earth was just a primitive world with primitive technology. The humans were probably crying and fighting among themselves, as young species always did after a tragedy. The Council was wrong. Deep beneath the surface of the moon, in a facility that did not officially exist, Admiral Lee walked through rows of newly built warships. They were beautiful in a terrible way, designed for one purpose only: destruction. Beside her walked Officer Moon, a young woman who led Earth's intelligence operations. She was small and quiet, the kind of person you would forget the moment you looked away. That made her perfect for her job. The information network is ready, Moon said. We have been gathering data for months. Every secret the Council has tried to hide, every crime they have covered up. When the time comes, we will release it all. The galaxy will know the truth. Good, Admiral Lee said. This is not just about military power. It is about breaking their lies, making them face what they have done. Moon nodded. There is something else. We have found records of other species who were attacked like us. Younger races who tried to join the Council and were destroyed when they became inconvenient. They have done this before, many times. Admiral Lee stopped walking, her jaw tightened. Then we are not just fighting for Earth, we are fighting for everyone they have ever hurt. Yes, Admiral, we are. Lee looked up at the ships towering above her. Somewhere out there, Lieutenant Park was sitting in a prison cell, the only survivor of the Horizon's crew. Somewhere out there, the commanders who ordered the attack were sleeping peacefully, thinking they had gotten away with murder. They were wrong. 1 year from now, Admiral Lee would lead these ships into battle. She would bring fire and fury to those who had hurt her people. And when it was over, the galaxy would never forget the name of humanity. But for now, she simply watched and waited and planned. The cold anger of an entire planet burned quietly in the darkness, waiting for its moment to explode. 18 months had passed since the destruction of the Horizon. The galaxy had moved on, forgetting about the small blue planet called Earth and the primitive creatures who lived there. The still controlled their corner of space. The Galactic Council still met and made decisions as if nothing had changed. They should have been watching more carefully. Commander Shin sat in the pilot seat of her ship, the Silent Wind. Around her, 11 other ships waited in the darkness between stars. They were Ghost Squadron, Earth's most elite unit, and tonight was their first mission. Was 35 years old, with a scar running down her left cheek from an accident during training. She never covered it. She wanted people to see it, to know that she was not afraid of pain. Her crew loved her because she never asked them to do anything she would not do herself. Commander, her second officer said, the target is in range. Looked at her screens. Ahead of them was a military outpost, a small station that watched over a quiet part of space. There were 200 soldiers inside, no civilians. Remember the rules, said through her communicator to all ships. No survivors, but we hit only military targets. If there are any civilian ships nearby, we let them go. We are not murderers." "Understood, Commander." Closed her eyes for a moment and thought about the horizon. She had known 12 people on that ship. Good people, kind people. Now they were dead because the thought human lives were worthless. She opened her eyes. Begin the attack. Ghost Squadron moved like shadows. Their ships were painted black and designed to be nearly invisible to sensors. They did not see them coming until it was too late. The first missiles hit the station's defensive weapons. The second wave destroyed their communications. They could not fight back and they could not call for help. They were trapped. His voice came through every speaker on the station. "This is Commander Shin of Earth's United Fleet. 18 months ago, you attacked a peaceful ship and killed 2,400 innocent people. The galaxy called it an accident. We know the truth. Tonight, we begin collecting our debt." The station exploded in a ball of fire. When it was over, Ghost Squadron disappeared back into the darkness. They left no evidence, no trace, and no witnesses, but they did leave one thing behind. A message broadcast on all frequencies. "We remember the 2,400, do you?" This was just the beginning. Over the next 6 months, Ghost Squadron struck again and again. Military bases, weapons factories, patrol ships. Anywhere they kept their military forces, and her team appeared without warning and destroyed everything. They never touched civilian targets. They never killed innocent people. But every soldier, every weapon, every ship that served the war machine was fair game. They were terrified. They increased their patrols, built new defenses, and begged the Galactic Council for help. But every time they thought they were safe, Ghost Squadron would appear again. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Officer Moon was fighting a different kind of war. Moon sat in a small room filled with computer screens. She was surrounded by her team, a group of young men and women who were experts in information and communications. They had been working for months, preparing for this moment. "It is time," Moon said quietly. "Release everything." Her team pressed buttons, and suddenly the galaxy was filled with truth. The data appeared on every news network, every government system, every personal device. It showed the real recording of the horizon's destruction, clear and undeniable. It showed the ships firing on a peaceful vessel. It showed council officials lying about what happened. And it showed something even worse. Records of other species who had been attacked. Young races who tried to join the council and were destroyed. Cover-ups that went back thousands of years. They and their allies had been murdering innocent species and hiding the evidence for a very long time. The effect was immediate. On dozens of worlds, people took to the streets. Species who had trusted the council for generations suddenly saw the truth. They had been lied to. They had been part of a system that killed innocent people. Some species were angry, others were ashamed, and some began to ask questions that the council could not answer. High Commander, the leader who had ordered the attack on the horizon, went before the council to demand action. "These are lies," he shouted. "Human propaganda. They are trying to divide us." But the evidence was too strong, too clear. Even his allies began to look at him with suspicion. "Perhaps," one council member said slowly, "we should investigate these claims." His face twisted with anger. "There is nothing to investigate. The humans are animals. We should destroy their planet before they become a real threat." But the council was no longer united. Some members agreed with. Others were horrified by what they had learned. For the first time in thousands of years, the Galactic Council was divided. While the galaxy argued, Sergeant led his team through the darkness of a prison facility. Was a ground forces commander, a big man with thick arms and a gentle smile that disappeared completely in battle. He had volunteered for this mission the moment he heard about it. Lieutenant Park, the only survivor of the horizon, was being held in this prison. She had been there for almost 2 years, and today he was going to bring her home. His team moved silently through the corridors. They wore black armor and carried weapons that made no sound. The prison guards never saw them coming. Clear whispered into his communicator after each room. Clear, clear. They found in a small cell at the bottom of the facility. She was thin and pale, with dark circles under her eyes. But when she saw the humans standing outside her cell, she smiled. "Took you long enough," she said. Broke the lock and helped her stand. "Sorry for the wait, Lieutenant. We had some things to take care of first." "I noticed. I heard the guards talking about Ghost Squadron. They were very scared." Grinned. "Good, can you walk?" "I can run if it means getting out of here." They moved quickly through the prison, fighting their way out when necessary. The guards tried to stop them, but's team was better trained and better equipped. Within 20 minutes, they reached their extraction ship and lifted off into space. As they flew away from the prison, looked out the window at the stars. She had spent 2 years in darkness, not knowing if anyone remembered her, not knowing if Earth had even received her message. "Lieutenant," said, sitting down beside her, "there is something you should know. The recording you sent us, it reached Earth. Everyone saw it. Everyone knows the truth." Tears filled eyes. "They know. They know, and they are angry. The angriest the galaxy has ever seen. We have built a fleet, 3,000 ships, and we are coming for the ones who killed our people." Wiped her eyes and looked at him. "Good. I want to be there when it happens." "You will be. Admiral Lee has already requested your presence on her flagship." Nodded slowly. For 2 years, she had survived by holding onto one thought, the hope that her people would not let the murder of 2,400 innocent humans go unpunished. Now that hope was becoming real. Back on Earth, the news of rescue spread quickly. People celebrated in the streets. She had become a symbol, a reminder of what they had lost and why they were fighting. Her face appeared on screens everywhere, alongside the faces of the 2,400 who had died. Admiral Lee watched the celebrations from her office. She was glad was safe, but the war was not over. In fact, it was just about to truly begin. She looked at the map on her wall, showing the position of Earth's fleet. 3,000 ships, hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting for her order. The thought they were dealing with small attacks from a small enemy. They had no idea that the full force of humanity was about to fall upon them. Admiral Lee smiled coldly. It was almost time. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dawn of Justice. Around her, officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment for 2 years. They were ready. Through the main window, she could see the edge of space. Somewhere beyond those stars was protected by the largest fleet in their history. 8,000 warships, gathered together to defend against the human threat. They thought their numbers would save them. They were wrong. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "all ships are in position. The fleet awaits your command." Lee nodded. "Open a channel to all vessels." A soft tone indicated the channel was open. 3,000 ships, spread across dozens of positions, were now listening to her voice. "This is Admiral Lee," she began. "2 years ago, they killed 2,400 of our people. They called it an accident. They laughed at our pain. They thought we were too weak, too primitive, too unimportant to be a threat. Today, we show them how wrong they were." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We do not fight for conquest. We do not fight for territory. We fight for justice. We fight for the men and women who died on the horizon. We fight for every species that the Council has silenced and destroyed. Today, the galaxy learns what happens when you harm humanity." She straightened her shoulders. "All ships begin the attack." The human fleet moved forward like a wave of darkness. Their ships were smaller than the vessels, but they were faster, more agile, and equipped with weapons the enemy had never seen before. They detected them almost immediately. High Commander, leading the defense from his massive command ship, watched the human vessels approach on his tactical display. Finally, he growled, "They have come to die, all ships destroy them." 8,000 warships opened fire. The space between the fleets filled with weapons fire, enough to destroy a small moon. Any normal fleet would have been wiped out in seconds. But the humans were not normal. Their ships moved in strange patterns, twisting and turning in ways that should have been impossible. They seemed to know where the weapons would fire before they fired. Many shots missed completely. Others were absorbed by shields that glowed with strange energy. Then the humans fired back. Their weapons cut through shields like they were made of paper. Ships exploded. Formations broke apart. Within minutes, they had lost 200 vessels, and the humans had lost only 12. Stared at his display in disbelief. How is this possible? They are primitives. "Sir," one of his officers said, voice shaking, "their weapons are using frequencies we have never seen before. Our shields cannot stop them." "Then get closer. Ram them if you have to." The fleet charged forward, trying to use their superior numbers. But the humans adapted. Their formation shifted, creating channels that pulled the enemy ships into killing zones. Human vessels worked together perfectly, each one supporting the others, creating a machine of destruction that they could not break. At the center of the battle, Captain O commanded the dreadnought Retribution. It was the largest ship in the human fleet, built specifically for one purpose. "Captain," his weapons officer said, "the enemy flagship is directly ahead. High Commander's personal vessel." Smiled grimly. "Then let us say hello. All forward weapons target their command ship. Fire." The Retribution unleashed everything it had. Beams of energy and missiles flew towards vessel, smashing through its defenses. The flagship shook under the impact, fires breaking out across multiple decks. But was not finished. His ship fired back, hitting the Retribution hard, grabbed his chair as the bridge shook. "Damage report." "Shields at 40%, sir, but we are still fighting." "Good, keep firing. Do not let them recover." The battle between the two flagships became the center of everything. Around them, thousands of ships fought and died. But everyone was watching these two vessels, locked in a struggle that would decide the war. Hours passed. The fleet, once 8,000 strong, was being cut apart piece by piece. The humans lost ships too, but far fewer. Their tactics, their technology, and their cold determination proved superior. Admiral Lee watched the battle unfold on her displays. She had planned this for 2 years. Every move, every formation, every strategy had been designed to break the enemy completely. And it was working. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park said from beside her, "High Commander's ship is heavily damaged. Their shields are failing." Lee looked at. The young lieutenant had insisted on being here, on seeing this moment with her own eyes. She had earned that right. "Open a channel to ship," Lee ordered. A moment later, the face of High Commander appeared on screen. He looked different from the confident leader who had insulted humanity years ago. His skin was burned in places. Blood ran down his face. Fear filled his 4 eyes. "High Commander," Admiral Lee said calmly, "your fleet is defeated. Half your ships are destroyed. The other half are retreating. You have lost." Snarled, "We will never surrender to animals." "I am not asking you to surrender. I am offering you a choice. Order your remaining forces to stand down and submit yourself for trial for the murder of 2,400 innocent people. Do this, and we will spare what remains of your military. Refuse, and we will destroy every last ship you have." Laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think the Council will allow this? They will destroy your pathetic planet." The Council is watching this battle right now. So is most of the galaxy. They have seen what happens when you attack humanity. I do not think they will interfere. His face twisted with hatred. "I will never bow to humans, never." Admiral Lee nodded slowly. "Then you choose destruction, so be it." She cut the communication and turned to her officers. All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. End this. The human fleet obeyed. Hundreds of ships turned their weapons on its vessel. The flagship, already damaged, could not survive the assault. Explosions ripped through its hull. Fires spread everywhere. But at the last moment, Admiral Lee gave another order: cease fire. I want that ship captured, not destroyed. Admiral must face justice, a trial, not just death. Send boarding teams. The fighting stopped. Human soldiers stormed onto the burning flagship. They found in his command center, surrounded by the bodies of his officers. He tried to fight, but he was quickly overwhelmed. They dragged him back to the dawn of justice in chains. Over the next 72 hours, the human fleet systematically destroyed every military installation. Shipyards, weapons factories, defense stations. Everything that had used to wage war was reduced to dust. But they did not touch civilian areas. Cities were left untouched. Homes were unharmed. Families watched from their windows as human ships flew overhead, destroying only military targets. This was not about genocide. This was about justice. When it was over, Admiral Lee stood before in a holding cell. The High Commander was broken, his arrogance gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Why? He asked. Why did you spare our civilians? Any other species would have destroyed everything. Lee looked at him coldly. Because we are not like you. We do not murder innocent people. We punish those who deserve punishment, and we protect those who have done nothing wrong. That is what makes us different from the was silent. You will be tried for your crimes, Lee continued. The entire galaxy will watch, and when they find you guilty, you will spend the rest of your life remembering what you did and what it cost your people. She turned and walked away. Behind her, the most powerful military leader in the Dominion sat alone in his cell, finally understanding that he had made a terrible, terrible mistake. The war was over, but the message was just beginning. 1 week after the defeat, the Galactic Council chambers on Velar Prime were filled with tension. Representatives from 46 species sat in their seats, whispering among themselves. The seats that once belonged to the Dominion were empty, covered in black cloth. Everyone was waiting. Everyone was afraid. The massive doors at the entrance of the chamber opened slowly. Silence fell across the room as the human delegation walked in. Ambassador led the way. She was a small woman with hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 30 years as a diplomat, handling the most difficult negotiations on Earth, but nothing in her career had prepared her for this moment. Behind her walked Admiral Lee in her full military uniform, medals shining on her chest. And beside the Admiral was Lieutenant Park, wearing the simple dress uniform of Earth's fleet, the survivor, the witness, the symbol of everything that had happened. The humans walked past the empty seats without looking at them. They continued to the center of the chamber, where a platform had been prepared for them. Ambassador stepped onto the platform and faced the council. No one spoke. No one moved. The entire galaxy was watching through broadcast systems, holding its breath. Members of the Galactic Council, Ambassador began, her voice clear and steady. 2 years ago, a ship called the Horizon came to this place in peace. It carried 2,400 of our best people, including Ambassador, who dreamed of friendship between humanity and the stars. She paused, letting the silence hang. Those people were murdered, shot down by warships while leaving peacefully. And when Earth asked for justice, this council looked away. You called it an accident. You called us primitive. You thought we would cry for a while and then forget. Her eyes swept across the room. We did not forget. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They remembered the recordings that Moon had released to the galaxy. They remembered the evidence of cover-ups and murders going back thousands of years. They remembered watching helplessly as the human fleet tore apart 8,000 warships in just 3 days. Earth has come here today to present our terms, Ambassador continued. These terms are not a request. They are not a suggestion. They are what will happen unless this council wishes to experience what they experienced. An older council member, a being from a species called the, raised one of his many hands. Ambassador, surely we can discuss this in a more civilized manner. The acted alone. The rest of us. The rest of you, Ambassador interrupted, her voice like ice, did nothing. You watched our people die and decided it was not important. You covered up the crime because humans did not matter to you. You are all responsible. The fell silent. Here are our terms, said. First, Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with veto power equal to the highest-ranking members. Second, reparations will be paid to the families of the 2,400 who died on the horizon. The amount will be determined by Earth, and it will be paid by every council member who voted to accept the lie. Third, a new charter will be written to protect younger species from attacks like the one we suffered. Any species that harms a peaceful younger race will face the same consequences as the. Murmurs spread through the chamber. These demands were unprecedented. No new member had ever been granted such power. No council member had ever been forced to pay reparations. Another representative stood, this one from a warrior species known for their pride. This is outrageous. You cannot come here and make demands. The council has rules, traditions. Admiral Lee stepped forward. In her hand was a small device. She pressed a button, and a voice began to speak through the chamber's speakers. Park's hand, Lee. The voice continued, naming every single person who had died on the horizon, one by one, slowly. Each name hung in the air like a ghost. The representatives fell silent. Some bowed their heads. Others looked away, unable to meet the eyes of the human standing before them. The names kept coming. Park. 4 hours. That was how long it took to read all 2,400 names. No one moved. No one spoke. No one dared to interrupt. When the last name was read, Admiral Lee put the device away and stepped back. The silence that followed was heavier than anything the council had ever experienced. Then Lieutenant Park stepped forward. She looked small on the platform, still thin from her years in prison, but her eyes burned with an intensity that made several council members look away. I was there, she said quietly. I watched my friends die. I watched the horizon explode. I floated alone in space, waiting to die because this council decided that human lives were not worth protecting. She turned slowly, looking at each representative in turn. They threw me in a prison cell. They beat me. They starved me. They told me that no one would come for me, that Earth was too weak to fight back, that my people were worthless. Her voice grew stronger. They were wrong. My people came for me. They built a fleet and crossed the galaxy to bring me home. And they destroyed the ones who hurt us, not because we are monsters, but because we love each other. Because human lives matter to us, even if they do not matter to you. She pointed at the empty seats. That is what happens when you attack humanity. Not because we are the strongest or the oldest or the most advanced, but because when you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. And we will never, ever let that go unpunished. Step back, her piece said. Ambassador moved forward again. You have heard our terms. You have heard the names of our dead. Now you must choose. Accept what we have proposed and we will work toward peace. Refuse and we will leave this chamber forever. And the next time we meet, it will not be with words. The council elders looked at each other. They saw the human fleet that waited outside their system, 3,000 ships that had proven themselves unstoppable. They saw the recordings that had turned public opinion against them throughout the galaxy. They saw the fear in each other's eyes. One by one, they voted. They voted yes. The proud warrior species voted yes. Every species, one after another, voted to accept Earth's terms. When the final vote was counted, Ambassador nodded. "Then we are agreed. Earth accepts membership in the Galactic Council. We look forward to working toward a better future." But there was no warmth in her voice, no celebration, just cold satisfaction. The meeting ended. The council members filed out quickly, eager to escape the presence of the humans who had humiliated them. Within an hour, the chamber was nearly empty. Admiral Lee stood by a large window, looking out at the stars. Behind her, the lights of Velar Prime twinkled in the darkness. Ships moved through space, going about their business as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Lieutenant Park walked up beside her. They stood together in silence for a moment. "Do you think they will keep their promises?" asked. Lee shrugged slightly. "They will, for now. They are too afraid to do otherwise. Whether that fear turns into respect over time, we will see." Nodded. She looked out at the stars, thinking about the friends she had lost, the years she had spent in prison, the journey that had brought her here. "They will remember us now," Lee said quietly. "The galaxy will never forget what happened here, what we did, what we are capable of." Was silent for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "They will remember all 2,400 of them. That is what matters." Lee turned to look at her. For the first time since the Horizon's destruction, she smiled. Not a cold smile of vengeance, but something warmer, something almost like hope. "Yes," she agreed, "that is what matters." They stood together, two humans in a galaxy that had learned a hard lesson. Behind them, the empty council chamber held the echo of 2,400 names, each one a reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. Earth had come to the stars seeking friendship. They had found betrayal and murder instead, but they had also found something else. They had found their strength, their unity, their purpose. The galaxy had tried to break them. The galaxy had failed. And now humanity would take its place among the stars, not as victims, but as equals. Not as children, but as a species that had proven itself in the most difficult way possible. The stars had never looked so beautiful to Admiral Lee. They were finally home,